What is going on, guys? Back with another podcast for the love of sports. I'm here with my man Andrew. What's going on, dude?
What's going on, Ryan? How you doing today?
Nothing much, man. Nothing much. And guys, we got a big slate of topics on here tonight. So great things. So we just saw the Boston Celtics again lose today, falling to 13 and 13 on the year. Man, I mean, to the Wizards this time. One of the worst teams in the league. They've just had an awful season in Washington. And, it was another Celtic loss. Jason Tatum only 8 points on the game, and they fall all the way to fifth in the Eastern Conference. And, I certainly had different expectations for this team early in the season. I thought the loss of Gordon Hayward was going to be crucial. But I think it's actually more crucial than people originally thought, because you see what he's doing. This year he's averaging almost 24 points a game. He's having his best season in Charlotte, looking terrific. I mean, that team is a playoff team almost with Gordon
Yeah,
Hayward. They also have LaMelo Ball there, but Hayward is their best player right now. And the Celtics, they need another player. Kemba Walker's not up to par and what us Celtics fans thought. He hasn't played up to his contract, and this is just another example. They lost the game today. Sure, he had 25 points, but they lost the game again. They should have won. Andrew, do you think they can turn it around this year?
I mean, I feel like they can, but there is a couple of factors going on with this team right now, and it's not really clicking. It's not gelling well. Uh, Good for Kemba. He had a great game today, but he's got to keep it up, and he's been struggling overall. The past like week and a half, 2 weeks, ever since the Celtics started to get into the struggle. 13 and 13. Sound good. I mean, there's still enough time for the Celtics to turn around. They've only played 26 games. I think there's a 70. Is it 72 games this
Yeah,
year?
72. Yep, 72.
So, yeah, so there's definitely enough breathing room for the Celtics to improve on their team. But they got to go with some different lineups, maybe some different combinations these next few games, so Brad Stevens can get acclimated with what works well with the team and what's the true identity of the Boston Celtics for this year.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is they got to be active at the trade deadline. And we've heard things that Danny Ainge is looking for. You've read the reports sometimes Harrison Barnes is possibly going to Boston. They definitely need another option, because this team going into the playoffs is not going to be able to compete with the Brooklyn Nets. They're not going to be able to compete with the Milwaukee Bucks. The Sixers terrific this year, having a great season. They're going to need another piece in order to actually have a successful playoff. Like I said, what they have right now, they're mediocre at best. I mean, 13 and 13, they're 500 basketball team. They're no better than that. And the expectations are very high with Jaylen Brown having a terrific season, Jason Tatum going into that stardom. But realistically, it's not what we expected. And, I've been a huge fan of Danny Ainge through his tenure with the Boston Celtics, but the last few seasons I've been preaching that he hasn't been active as he should be for a team that's on the verge of going to an NBA Finals. He's not he hasn't been the GM to go out there and made the next big move. And I think at minimum they're one piece away. I don't know if that piece is a center. I think it could be a center, because I do think they need someone better than Daniel Tice in the middle. I thought Tristan Thompson has been a decent signing at best this year. I'm a big Andre Drummond fan, and I know the Cavaliers they might want to move on from him. They just got Jared Allen in the trade where they got Karis LeVert. I don't think that. I mean, yeah, I mean the Pacers got him, but I don't think there's no way this team can succeed in the playoffs without another piece. And Harrison Barnes is a name that's been floated around. There's a lot of guys that are going to move around at the end of the trade deadline this year.
Yeah,
But what they have right now, they're going to be 500 at best, I think.
I can totally see a trade going down with the Atlanta Hawks. I would love to see the Celtics go after John Collins. I think he could be a big addition to the Celtics. I like to see maybe Kemba Walker and Daniel Tice in a trade package. Send them out to Atlanta. You get John Collins and possibly Kevin Huter if you want that scorer off the bench who could be like a nice, decent backup shooting guard for Marcus Smart. And you're going to add more depth to your team and more shooting. That's another thing the Celtics need. They need that one more true scorer that can just like help out, and they need that Eddie House type, that James Posey, where you need that extra scorer coming off the bench, and it can't just be like the sixth or seventh man. It's got to be one of those guys that are just floating under the radar, and you never know those those two additions right there could help the team in the long run if they can pull off that kind of trade. And I feel like
Yeah.
they could.
Yeah, John Collins would be terrific. I mean, if they can get Collins or Clint Capella, who's been a beast with them in Atlanta, I just think, like I said, they're one piece minimum away. And Kemba Walker experiment has not worked out in Boston. I was a big fan of him. When he was on Charlotte prior to this, I just thought that he was small, and we just had Isaiah Thomas. We saw what happened with him. He couldn't defend, and not that Kemba Walker's as bad of a defender as Isaiah Thomas was, but same type of thing. And on top of it, he has bad knees. Isaiah Thomas had a bad hip. Kemba has bad knees now. I mean, this is already his second surgery since he's been on the Boston Celtics. And the money he's getting paid, he's not playing up to par with that contract. And I criticize him the most because he's supposed to be an all-star caliber point guard, and he just hasn't been. And he hasn't been available, too, is another thing. He's missed so many games already. I feel like every time he finally gets into a rhythm, he gets an injury, and he's out already for another month. So I just think that, that experiment is over in Boston. I would move him as fast as possible because, a guy at 30 years old already having knee issues like this, this has been his second, procedure in the last couple of years. I think it's a bad sign, and I don't want them to be stuck with him either because I think this is the year. If they're gonna move on with him, they have to do it now because if they wait one more year and anything else happens to him, he's going to be like untradeable, and his contract is going to be almost impossible to move.
And I think it's also time for Peyton Pritchard to step up and hopefully, maybe if they do trade in Kemba Walker, be that next big time guard. I mean, I could definitely see a great future for him in the NBA. He's actually in the top 10 right now in 3-point percentage, which is very odd for me to hear the other day when I was watching the game. Uh, Obviously, he doesn't really hit the floor much, so he's going to get those high percentage shots for being in those games for that little of a time. And I just think he's a hell of a point guard, and he's gritty, he's stingy, he's a good fit for that Celtics team, and he like molds in well with the Brad Stevens system.
Yeah, I got to be honest, man. I've seen him play, throughout the season, and I think if he played 30 minutes, 35 minutes, just like Kemba was playing right now, I don't doubt that he couldn't do the same exact production that we're getting from Kemba. I mean, today he
Yeah.
finally had 25 points, but prior to this, scoring like in the teens, it's like 14, 16 points. That's not a guy that's making almost $35 million a year. That's not worth it. And Ainge has been very stagnant. He hasn't been wanting to get rid of the young players in the picks. We've seen year after year, they just continue to hold on to these draft picks as if they're like gold. And I don't understand it because they don't even play. Like they drafted how many guys the last few seasons that almost get no court time at all. They drafted Tremont Waters before. They drafted Carson Edwards. They drafted, Neesmith this year, the rookie out of
Yeah.
Vanderbilt, who almost never plays, who I think should play. He's a good shooter. And that's what they need. They need another shooter. They need another scorer. Brad Stevens just refuses to play them. And if you're not going to play the guys, you got to package them, get rid of them. Romeo
Yeah.
Langford hasn't even played a single game this year. I actually like Langford. I actually think he's a pretty good player, but he's been hurt, almost constantly,
That knee issue, yeah, that knee is pretty big for that type of player. But yeah, with Peyton Pritchard too, getting drafted 26 overall from the 2020 draft, you had Neesmith going 9 picks earlier, I believe, and just like I can't believe how poorly Neesmith has been playing, but how well Pritchard's been playing. He's elevated his game. He's turning into one of the best rookies in this draft class, in this rookie draft class, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do going forward and going into the 2021 offseason.
Yeah, absolutely. And on to the Utah Jazz. Giannis Antetokounmpo said after the game, last night or 2 days ago when it was, the Jazz are the best team in the West. So they do have the best record in the league right now. Definitely the best record in the Western Conference, in a difficult Western Conference. They've been very impressive. I have to say it. They've been very impressive to start the year. And I always said it even last year, they're a team that could be very, scary come playoff time because they got the height. They have great defensive team. They have Donovan Mitchell. They have Rudy Gobert, Bojan Bogdanovic. They have Joe Ingles. They have a really good roster. 1 through 10. They have a very good team. I mean, Mike Conley's been terrific this year. I thought that contract was bad, but he's been great this year. Jordan Clarkson. They have a lot of guys, a lot of
Chris
scorers.
O'Neal's been a really good key piece for them this year too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Giannis said they are the best team in the league right now. And, based on their record indicated, they are the best team. I think the Clippers and the Lakers have something to say about that. Andrew, do you actually think they're the best team in the Western Conference or in the entire NBA right now?
I mean, it's hard not to go with the Jazz, but like I said earlier about the Celtics and their woes, it's early in the NBA season, and who knows what could happen these next few months going into the end. I could definitely see LeBron. Uh, they had a terrible game the other day against the Memphis Grizzlies. That first quarter was crazy to watch. 2 points through half the first quarter, a little over half the first quarter. So yeah, a lot of teams have their woes during the season, and it's all about how you finish, right? Not how you start. And I would put some stock into Dallas too, because Dallas is one of those teams where they're struggling as well. 9th seed in the West, they got an MVP candidate kind of player in Luka Doncic, and they can come back out of nowhere. And you also have a team like the Nuggets. I think the Nuggets have another MVP candidate in Nikola Jokic. He's been the best center of the league by far. The man just eats buckets. The man just eats rebounds, gets his assists, blocks, does everything for that team. And it's I can see the Nuggets being at the end of the season being better than the Jazz like last year. So you got to watch out for them. They're really good starting. Their starting five is amazing, great depth scoring. You got Michael Porter, who's on the way to becoming a really good player off the bench. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's
there you
great
go.
insight. The Jazz, man, like I said, they got the team, on paper to be very good, and finally they're putting it all together this year. Like you said, it is very early in the season, so it's tough to indicate if they're going to continue to do this throughout the season. But that Western Conference, man, it's stacked. I mean, the ninth seed, the Dallas Mavericks are the ninth seed in the Western Conference. I mean, that is ridiculous. I mean, the teams in front of them are also terrific. So one of those teams has got to fall out in order for the Mavericks to make it. And I don't know which team it's going to be. The Warriors have been pretty decent. I think they're the eighth seed right now. They've been really good because of Steph Curry. I mean, that's really the reason why they've been successful. I'm not sold though on the Spurs. I think they're the sixth seed right now, ahead of the Nuggets. The Spurs have
Yeah,
a pretty good team. They got the DeMar DeRozan, DeJounte Murray. They got a couple good pieces there. Keldon Johnson's pretty good. Came out of
Jonathan Johnson.
nowhere. So I do have some stock in the San Antonio Spurs, but like I said, that West, man, is tough. That's why it's more impressive to me though that the Jazz have this record. 27 games in, they're 22-5. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, that's a good amount of games. That's a quarter of the season almost that they've been number one in the league. So and they've been beating teams. Like last night, they beat Miami by like 20. Miami's a ninth seed this year. It's like you said, a long way to go, but I certainly didn't see the Miami Heat being a nine seed. I thought they were well on their way back to maybe another, NBA Finals. We saw what happened last year. They had that Cinderella team and they just went right to the finals. And they gave the
Got plenty in
Lakers
the
six
bubble.
games.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about the Heat this year? Are you surprised that they're the ninth seed, 11-15 through what is it, 26 games?
I'm a little surprised, but I think they're one of those teams where they caught lightning in a bottle last year, and it's tough to repeat it. And I don't think they're one of those teams where they're like the Clippers or the Bucks or the Lakers, where they're just going to keep consistently winning and being a top two team in their conference. So yeah, like I said, a little surprised, but not that not that surprised. It's
Yeah.
it's it's weird. It's weird how the NBA season's gone so far. It's probably the most wide open the association's been in a long time. It's so wide open. Anyone could make it to the Final Four or the NBA Finals, and we don't know who it is. And there isn't that clear winner with how the NBA is going this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Even the Brooklyn Nets, the Brooklyn Nets, most people think that they would be a favorite to win with that stacked roster with Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, James Harden, but it seems to be that, this is going to be a problem defensively all year for that team. And, I originally said they can outscore everybody, which, they are, they're the highest scoring team in the NBA right now, but they're also the fourth worst defensive team in the NBA right now. So, realistically, when it comes playoff time and teams are clamping down, I think they're going to have a problem on that place on the floor. I mean, I don't think that Irving and Harden are going to be able to defend in a 7-game series. Like I said, they lost two great defenders. LeVert was good, and Jared Allen was an animal for them. And
Yeah,
they just don't
yeah.
have those key defenders anymore. Granted, they have those superstars, so I think they'll definitely get to the finals or pretty close to it minimum. But it's still still a little early for me to say for sure the Brooklyn Nets are going to the NBA Finals.
All right, maybe we should go on to another subject. I don't know. What are you feeling
Yeah,
right now?
absolutely, my man. So we got some MLB news, MLB offseason news, which has actually been one of the craziest MLB offseason in years. So many players moving around, big trade throughout the league. We saw Nolan Arenado take off from the Rockies to the St. Louis Cardinals. Francisco Lindor traded to the Mets, kind of out of nowhere. We just saw
Yeah,
Trevor Bauer signed with the Dodgers. I
man.
mean, my God. I mean, the Dodgers just are they going to like stop getting players? Because it's like at this point, we just talked about their, rotation.
Yeah,
Not even the
yeah.
rotation, their rotation and their batting staff, their hitting staff is ridiculous. 1 through 8, 1 through 9 on a daily basis is stacked on that team.
Hey, back to back like 96 and 97, like Drake said, right?
Yeah, I guess
With
so.
those
Yeah.
LA Dodgers, they're looking really dangerous. And man, who'd have thought they're just improving? Like they won the championship last year, and they were the best team by far. Now you cited the NL Cy Young Award winner from 2020. That oh my god, like I don't even know how to to make of it. I'm just speechless.
Yeah, when I first saw that, I thought it was like I read something at first when Bauer was. I think he was expected to sign with another team. I originally saw, then all of a sudden I saw breaking news: Bauer signs with the Dodgers. I was like, "There's no way that just happened!" Like crazy. I'm like, my goodness. It's so rare that a team goes, to the World Series, wins pretty easy fashion, and then gets a better team. It almost
Yeah,
never happens. It's usually the loose players usually. So that's also surprising. I mean, we just talked about their lineup. Their pitching alone, they have Kershaw, Walker Bueller, Trevor Bauer. Their fifth starter is David Price, who's better than how many second starters on the league?
yeah. That's a good point. And like you said earlier, well, we were talking about before we started going on the air. That lineup is just ridiculous. Mookie Betts, Cody Bellinger, Gavin Lux, too, a hell of a second baseman. You got who
Justin Turner
else?
just signed back as
Justin
well.
Turner, yeah. Justin Turner just got back, and
AJ Pollock, pretty good. Corey Seager's good.
Pollock, decent outfielder. They got about two, possibly three MVP candidates in that starting lineup, and it's going to be very interesting to see how that team unfolds. But I can't see them losing another World Series this year. It's got to be them. It's got to be.
I mean, I don't even know who would compete. I've looked at some of the other teams. St. Louis is looking good. They just got a stud in Arenado. I thought that was a great trade for them. I don't
Yeah,
know
it's good.
what Colorado was thinking. I had a prior podcast I talked about that. I don't know why they would trade. They just signed him to like 8 years prior to last year, and you literally just traded by far your best player. And like I already mentioned before, they have Trevor Story there on the books. He's a free agent after this year. He's good as gone, and he's a great shortstop, one of the best in the league. So we'll see where he goes. He might even be traded, before the season starts, because realistically, why would they even hold on to him when they can get rid of him for something at least?
Hopefully, the Red Sox go after him after the 2021 season's over. That'd be a nice addition to that team.
Yeah, so the Red Sox, both of our favorite teams. I mean,
Yeah.
what have they been doing this offseason?
They added two okay players. Garrett Richards, who's going to be like, I mean, if everyone's healthy, he's like a number 3 starter. Number 4, he's okay. It wasn't the big splash move. It wasn't the big, sexy, attractive move. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how he does on that team this year. Kike Hernandez is a good addition. The Red Sox were in need of a second baseman. They needed that starting second baseman. He's more of a platoon guy, more of a depth piece, but they're going to need Kike Hernandez this year. The team is, I mean, it's not looking that great this year. It's looking like a last place team, or either that or fourth place. It could be between them and the Orioles as the worst team in the AL East this year, and that's sad to see because you would think the Red Sox, they have one of the highest payrolls in baseball. Well, I just, if High Bloom messes up either this year and this year and next year, you got to get rid of him. He's a waste of time for that Red Sox organization, for a team that should be competing for at least an ALCS spot every year with that kind of payroll.
Well, that's the thing, man. You just hit the nail on the head. How does a team with one of the highest payrolls in all of baseball not have a competitive roster, year in and year out? You would never see the Yankees do this. And this is why, or even the Dodgers now, since the last 10 years, like you would never see it happen. And, I thought, those guys, players just want to go to LA. They want to go to New York. It seems to always be the case. This is just another example of Boston literally not getting any free agents. I mean, we just saw Ben Attendee shipped out of town. from that
Yeah.
World Series team just 3 years ago. We don't even have a starter in the outfield anymore that was on that team. Benintendi's gone, Jackie Bradley's a free agent still, and Mookie Betts was traded last year. We don't even have a single one, and that was just 3 years removed from a championship. This team is destroyed since then, and I don't
Yeah.
know who's to blame because I think they've done a horrible job of managing. Chris Sale obviously being out hurt them. Obviously, Mookie Betts trading one of the best players in the league sucked last year. Face the fact, it was a horrible trade in my opinion. I understand he wanted to leave, but that sucked. And there's almost no recovering from it because realistically, how the hell are you going to get a guy like Mookie Betts to replace him? Like, it's difficult to do, and they don't just grow on trees. And
Yeah.
you would think though they would actually get like some free agents. Like, why didn't they want to trade for Arenado? Why didn't they want to trade for Lindor? They had all this money. Like, well, why are they not making these trades? Because they traded freaking Arenado for cash, I think, and one player, nothing. They got nothing for him. And you don't think
Yeah.
the Red Sox going to give at least a little something better than that?
Yeah, well, it also depends on the player too, because I believe the Rockies got one of their best prospects in return from the Cardinals, and that's a problem with the Red Sox right now. Their farm system is probably, if not the worst, if not one of the worst in baseball at the moment. And yeah, that's due to the fact with Dave Dombrowski being the GM a few years ago, trading so many great prospects, including guys like um, Michael Kopech, who's doing pretty decent for the Chicago White Sox right now. Yoan Moncada, another great White Sox player who's looking like possibly one of the best shortstops in the future, and he's a hell of a player. You got the other guy. I think he was traded to the Padres. I can't remember his name. It
Yeah, I
was
mean, talking about another team though.
It was in the Drew Pomeranz deal. So that
Yeah,
was
I
another
remember that.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at the Padres too, though. Like you just mentioned, my God, terrific. I mean, they're going to be nasty this year. I mean, there's no doubt about it. That's another team though that's like consistently gone out and got players. Manny Machado. We've seen all these guys. They've spent money. That's the thing. At least if you're trying, you're spending money. I don't have a problem with. But Boston's not even trying. It looks like. Last year they were trying to trade JD Martinez, one of the only good players they have left, and the guys they got haven't done anything. They just, Alex Verdugo, in my opinion, was useless last year. Maybe he eventually turns into a good player. I don't see it happening. Maybe he does, but like you said, to me, it's just so embarrassing because, like you said, you don't see the Dodgers doing this. You don't see the Yankees doing this. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's like the Red Sox want to skin their team out and just start new. It's like Chaim Bloom wants the Red Sox to be like the Tampa Bay Rays, because if you remember, he was the previous general manager and the vice president of baseball operations for the Rays. So it's a weird time for the Red Sox right now, and who knows? A lot of free agents can still get signed. I don't know who's on the list right now, who's out there for the best starting pitcher available. They did get a nice reliever in Adam Ottavino in the trade with the Yankees. That was one of their biggest trades,
Yep,
and
yeah, that was.
he's going to be probably our closer this year. And I mean, how many saves is he going to get with how bad that Red Sox team is looking?
Right.
We don't know.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, is he even going to be in a safe situation this year?
Yeah, it's going to be crazy to see. And yeah, hopefully High Bloom has something up his sleeve with a big trade or another big move to improve the bullpen, starting pitching, or maybe a little lineup batting piece.
Yeah, I mean, the lineup is one thing, but the pitching last year was just, oh my goodness, pathetic, terrible.
If anything, you got to improve the pitching and not the lineup. The lineup for the Sox is decent. They're still a pretty good like top 5-10 offense in the American League. But you have so many good offenses in the AL East this year. You got the Blue Jays. Look at the Blue Jays, what they're doing. George Springer, 6 years, 150, cornerstone outfielder, franchise piece right there for them. They're looking like a great lineup.
Oh my God, terrific! I mean, what a trade that was. I mean, what a signing that was. I mean, George Springer's been one of the best outfielders in the league. I mean, the Blue Jays have made nothing but move. It's like every team in the AL East has like gotten better, and we've gotten worse.
Yeah, well, maybe besides the Orioles, but
yeah, I mean they're terrible. But I mean, for the big market the Red Sox are. I mean, our number one starter, I think, going into the season is Nathan Eovaldi, Eduardo Rodriguez, who's I think sick now. I think he had COVID bad, and I think he has like a heart problem now over it.
He's actually getting healthier. I think he might be available once the season starts because I think he's getting better from what I heard. So,
oh, I hope so, man, because they need him bad. Yeah. They need him.
You know, who's a decent starting pitcher? They're saying he's a prospect. He was last year, and he played a little bit for the Red Sox last year, getting called up from AAA. Tanner Houck, and I guess a lot of scouts are saying that he could be like a really good bottom of the rotation piece, maybe middle of the rotation piece one day. So he's a rookie, going to be probably a number 4 starter for the Red Sox. That's a big role to fill. That guy's going to be counted on to get some wins for the Red Sox this year. So it's going to be pretty interesting what the team looks like and how they look.
Yeah, no, it is. And, with this offseason, like I said, being one of the craziest, I've seen in a long time, a lot of guys still on the move. I think that the Red Sox have a window here. And if the Yankees and, the Rays continue to get better the next 2 years, I think they have a very short window. If not, I think in 2 years they're just going to sign guys like crazy and hope for the best because it looks like now they're clearly rebuilding, but I think they're in this weird transition period where they were like really good, and now they're just like they don't want to like completely rebuild, but they're trying to do like a small rebuild.
Yeah, for sure. So, what are your predictions for the ALCS, NLCS, and the World Series this year?
Man, it's so tough. It's so early on. Obviously, the season hasn't even started, and there's so many teams that you could say have the potential to go all the way. To me, I think the Dodgers are favored. We just mentioned it all the way. I mean, I don't think that bet I think is as clean and as anything. It's like that team is
Yeah.
just so stacked head to toe. So I think it's going to be the Dodgers. I don't know who's going to play them. I think the Cardinals have a good shot. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of that trade. I think the Padres have a really good shot as well. They just got Yu Darvish too, great pitcher. They've made moves, and we'll see what happens with that team. They got the lineup. That's another team that could be really good this year. I mean, obviously they have Tatis Jr., one of the best players in the league on that team. I
Yeah.
think it could be one of those two against the Dodgers and the NLCS. ALCS, that's tough. That's kind of up in the air. I mean, what do you think about the ALCS?
Well, for the ALCS and the NLCS, I can definitely see the Yankees. The Yankees are probably the best team in the American League by far, and I think it's going to be them. And you know what's funny? I think it's going to be the White Sox this year. The White Sox look like they have a
Yeah, they're
good
really
young
good.
potential team on the rise. Like I mentioned earlier with Yoel Moncada, Jose Abreuca, he's due for a bounce back year. Really good power hitter on that team. Tim Anderson, he's looking like one of the best shortstops in the
Oh
league.
my God,
He's on the
nasty.
up. Great contact hitter. Uh, and you got the Yankees, of course, Giancarlo Stanton. You got Garrett Cole, Trevor Bauer, not Trevor Bauer, Corey Kluber. Great additions to the starting rotation. Jameis Italian, great pitcher from the Pirates, one of their best pitchers, joining on that squad. Uh, Gleyber Torres, if we want to go back to the hitters now, Gleyber Torres is due for a big year. Really, really strong team. You got Luke Voigt, power bat. They have a lot of power in that team, and I could definitely see them making it that far. And those two teams playing for the NLCS, I think it's going to be the Dodgers and the Padres, two teams in one division. I think it's going to be one of those crazy stories, where you got those two teams in the same division fighting it,
Oh
day
yeah.
in day out when they play against each other, and they're gonna host some big matchups this year, and I can definitely see them being a big time NLCS matchup.
Oh yeah, definitely could be. I'm trying to look at the rosters and predict who's going to be like this Cinderella team. We saw the Rays out of nowhere, the Twins last year out of nowhere, pretty much had a really good season for the majority of the season, and that was surprising. This is my weird prediction of the season, and people don't think that you know this team has the potential. But I'm looking at their roster right now, and I'm looking at what they've constructed, and it's a possibility. I'm not saying this is going to happen. We'll see. But this is the team I think that might eventually move up, and I'm going to go with the Seattle Mariners this year. I think they have a pretty decent team. I don't know why. I just think that the roster they had, they're always like kind of close to making the playoffs the last few years. Not to say they're going to have a great season, but I do like some of their players on their team. I think the Mariners might be the team to sneak into the playoffs this year.
Hey, that's a crazy prediction, and I don't know. I'm not too high on the Mariners, but we can see what happens. I think, like I said earlier, I think the White Sox are that Cinderella team. I could definitely see them going into the ALCS and falling down to the Yankees. They got decent starting pitching. You got Luis Galido, one of the best pitchers in the AL. Definitely top three. If not top three, then top five. Great nasty slider, one of the best sliders in the game. Fastball, 95, 96. Can paint the edges. He's got a huge arm, and he can pinpoint the ball. Michael Kopech, another guy who throws like 102 miles an hour, who's a Red Sox prospect. He's a laser, dude. He's got an
Unreal.
arm for days.
Yeah.
Arm for days.
Yep.
And I'm trying to figure out who they picked up someone too. Dallas Keuchel. Dallas Keuchel, another good
Hey, you never
starter.
know. Yeah, I mean, he was great. You never know.
Yeah, for those Astro teams, he had a great couple years. So hey, man, the baseball season is going to be interesting to see. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, needless to say. And on to some NFL news finally in this podcast. And this offseason is going to be crazy. And it already started when we saw the Matthew Stafford trade. Jared Goff swapped for him. That was shocking. And it looks like Wentz is the next guy that's going to be traded off Philadelphia. And this season, like I said, these quarterbacks are going to be moving around. I think Garoppolo's gone. I think he actually has a chance to go back to New England. I don't know that for sure, but I could definitely see that happening. And I don't think that's going to be the end of it. I think Watson, I don't know. Deshaun Watson, I don't. The team apparently has no interest in trading Deshaun Watson, and why would they? But realistically, they're in a kind of a weird situation because they just let go of JJ Watt. They just got rid of him, and that seems like that's telltale sign that Watson could be next. We'll see. But whatever team Deshaun Watson goes to is going to be favored, in my opinion, to cause some serious damage. Depending on what team he goes to, if he can somehow get to like the Colts or he can somehow get to like the Jets, I don't even want to talk about the Jets. I don't know what that was a report. Why would he want to go to the Jets? I don't think that would be a good signing at all. If he can get to a playoff caliber team, oh my God, imagine if somehow he went to like, the Steelers or he went to like a team that's like a quarterback away. I mean, my God, that team would be scary. And like I said, he's not going to be the only guy moving around. I think Matt Ryan's going to go. I think that they're going to draft a quarterback. I think they have the fourth pick this year. I think he's gone. I think he's good as gone on that team. So Matt Ryan might be available. A lot of guys. Rodgers, maybe. I mean, we probably not. Rodgers probably will stay in Green Bay, but we never know. But what do you think about these quarterbacks moving around?
Well, when you were talking about the Falcons, I saw something the other day about Bleacher Report saying that Matt Ryan wanted to return and Julio Jones. They're trying to run it back, and they're trying to.
I've seen that too, but I mean, they've been stagnant for the last. I mean, they haven't even made the playoffs in what 3-4 years already.
Yeah, hey, they gotta hope Drew Brees retires because if he does, and the Falcons get Matt Ryan and Julio Jones back, they have a good shot to creeping up in the wild.
That's what I don't understand. That's another team. I'm like, dude, they have Calvin Ridley, Matt Ryan, and Julio Jones.
Yeah.
That team is stacked. I mean, they should be
Yeah.
good. So that's another. I mean, who knows if they do draft a quarterback? Matt Ryan is just not mobile at all, and at this point in his career, it's such a detrimental piece of the team because if he has any pressure at all, it's like he cannot do anything, and I think that screws that team the large majority of every game because they're actually up in most games and they just blow the game in like the last quarter every time. It's literally like the Falcons and the Chargers could be up by like 2 touchdowns minimum, and like they'll find a way to lose.
Yeah, no, I definitely see where you're coming from. The Falcons are like that team in the NFL that gets up 17, 20 points and they boom like that. It disappears.
Vanishes in the thin air.
I just hey, so
what do you think about Jimmy G though? You think Jimmy G would leave?
Hey, I think he's got a good chance of leaving, and I could definitely see Jimmy G going into the Pats.
Do you even want him back on the Pats? That was the question. Do you want him back on New England?
Hey, I wouldn't mind it. He looked pretty good when he started. That game against Arizona when Brady got suspended, first game of the season, that was a hell of a game for them.
You can't be worse than what they had this year, right? I mean, right?
Yeah, you can't be. You can't be. And it's the Patriots too. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with if they get Jimmy Garoppolo, if they draft Justin Fields or Trey Lance. Justin Fields could be there, but for the 15th pick, his stock is kind of dropped a little bit.
Yeah, possibly. You never know. Imagine that.
The performance in the national championship game is big, and I think Mac Jones is on the rise.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He's got potential to be a top 10 pick, and he was a senior, 4-year senior. He had to go compete with guys like Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa, and I think I said his last name wrong, but hey, who cares?
Yeah, close enough.
Tua Tagovailoa, and Mac Jones is.
Dude, this quarterback draft is stacked, man. These quarterbacks are going to be filthy, dude. There's a potential for, I think it was like the first time in like 40 years for like 5 quarterbacks to be drafted in the top 10. That's like insane.
Yeah, I think the last time there was a good quarterback class had to be 2011, I want to say, or 14.
Yeah, literally.
Maybe
I mean,
14.
I can't remember a class where they have had this many guys that could like potentially be good. It's like so rare.
Yeah, no, it is very rare. Very rare. I think I'm thinking about like 2017 actually with Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson.
That
I
was
think
a
I'm
good
thinking
draft
about that.
class, but
Yeah,
at least there
that
wasn't
was
five. That could be. I don't know. It could be a class like that. It's just, these quarterbacks, in my opinion, have to go to the right team. And I feel like so many guys just get screwed so badly because they go to like the worst franchise and they're just like careers just like destroyed.
yeah.
And we're seeing that now. I mean, Watson wants to leave for a reason. I mean, realistically, the team sucks and they've done nothing to help him. And that's a huge reason why he's like, no, I'm leaving. This team is worthless at this point.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to happen to, these young quarterbacks coming in. And it might because who knows? Like, look at Trevor Lawrence. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is projected to go number one. I mean, projected to be a very good quarterback. But,
Yeah.
we just talked about it before this. Maybe Chris Godwin goes there. He's going to need someone to join that team because realistically, the quarterbacks they've had have just gotten destroyed. I mean, we've seen Gardner Minshew, I thought was actually decent, get like crippled this year, and they just have nobody there. We've seen what they did the last 2, 3 years. They literally traded everybody for this possibility of getting this pick.
Hey, Russell Wilson too. The other day,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Wilson too.
yeah,
That's another
last week
guy.
saying that he was disgusted with how poorly the offensive line has been playing for the Seahawks. Uh, Deshaun Watson feels the same way. Their offensive line has been one of the worst in the league, just like the Seahawks. And these guys need protection. And maybe it's not the weapons. Maybe it's just the offensive line. They, the Texans really have to draft someone this year if they want to keep Watson. And Watson's still under contract, I believe, for 1 year. I don't think he's a free agent.
No,
From
at least 1 year. I think it's two actually, which is even worse.
yeah, that also depends on how that situation goes. So yeah, it's gonna
Imagine
be
Russell Wilson
interesting.
leaving though. I mean, my God. I mean, you would think
Yeah,
though, for a franchise quarterback, they have all the weapons possible. They just don't protect them. He's been sacked, I think, the most in the league since he's been in, and that's like unexcusable to me. I'm like, dude, you guys have your franchise quarterback. Why run the risk of him getting injured? And he's been great. He like literally almost never gets injured. So it's like
yeah.
you got to protect him like at all costs. I would, Russell Wilson to me is a top three quarterback hands down.
Oh, for sure. It's like ever since he's gotten drafted, he's had one of the worst offensive lines year in and year out, and it's like surprising to see. He's been in the NFL since 2011, and just like wow. Oh well, I would say 2013 was probably the best offensive line he's ever had. That Super Bowl run
Oh
when they
my
had
God.
Max Unger, um, they had a couple of nice right guards. Good.
They had
They
good
had that
tackle
guy from
play.
Purdue. Yeah, Russell Okung. Russell Okung is the guy I'm talking about. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he was good then.
a great left tackle for them. And yeah, ever since that 2013 Super Bowl run, he's had one of the worst offensive lines in the league.
I haven't got a chance to ask you, man. I don't know if you've seen it on my channel. What do you think about that Stafford trade? I thought that was like one of the worst trades. I like Matthew Stafford. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a great player. I just think they mortgaged their entire future. I mean, they traded 2 first rounders, a
Yeah.
third, and Jared Goff. That's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like, to me, that's like, oh my God, why? Why? That's way too much.
It's funny too because I think knowing the Lions, they could screw that thing up. They're one of the most putrid franchises in the NFL right now. Them and the Washington football team. It's just one of those franchises where you have no confidence in whatever they do. Like it's just like yeah, the Lions kind of remind me of the Red Sox. 86 years without a championship. It could be like that.
Literally,
They're the
literally.
NFL version. Yeah.
Well, I mean, do you think that Stafford actually brings them to that next level? I mean, they're not that far
Oh,
removed
you
from a
mean
Super
golf?
Bowl run. No, no, Stafford going to the Rams. What do you think of
Oh,
that?
okay, okay. Sorry, I thought you were talking about golf going to the Lions because we were
Well,
just
I like that, but what do you think of Stafford? Because they're the one that traded everything for him. What do you think Stafford can get him over that hump?
hey, Stafford's got potential to be a top 10 fantasy quarterback this year, that's for sure.
Oh,
And
100%.
we don't know how many years he has left in that tank, but if you get a healthy Matthew Stafford with that offensive weaponry and the offensive line being really good as it is, they're going to be the best team in the NFC West and a good Super Bowl contender for sure this year.
Yeah, especially with Donald and Jalen Ramsey on defense. I mean, that could be scary. I mean, they got all the pieces there, and
You do,
I
yeah.
think that's why they went out and made that trade because they're like, all right, we got to win now because we're not going to have these guys for that much longer, and we already seen Donald get hurt latter part of this year. Ramsey's probably eventually going to leave, but that's a favorite in my opinion. And I haven't got much time to discuss this with you. I mean, about the Super Bowl, and you know you being a big Tom Brady fan, congratulations on his seventh ring. I mean, my goodness, at this point, but I'm hearing a lot of, I hate it because I'm hearing so much slander towards Patrick Mahomes, and me being a big fan of Patrick Mahomes, I just think that he had no help that game. The worst offensive line help I've ever seen in a Super Bowl in
Both
years.
of his starting tackles gone from that game.
Terrible.
No,
And
no Eric Fisher and whoever the
and
other guy was.
I just want to talk about this with you quickly because we only have a few more minutes left on this before it shuts off on us. But you know, going into that game, you would think Patrick Mahomes and that offense is going to score minimum 20 points. At worst 20 points, and they only scored 9. And a lot of Brady fans, especially from out here, from being in New England, it's Tom seventh, it's this and that. And I look back, and I always see, the last time they won, the defense only held the Rams to 3 points. He won this time against Patrick Mahomes, a perennial 30-point scoring team, a team that almost never scores under 30, scores 9, and then everyone's praising Brady. I just want to get this clear. That was a defensive win. I mean, Brady played great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not shunning Tom Brady, obviously the best of all time, but they won because of the defense. Am I right?
I mean, the defense was a big part of it for sure. Tom Brady did have 3 touchdowns, 2 of them to Gronk, 1 in Antonio Brown, and that was a crazy sight to see. And yeah, it wasn't his best performance. He definitely had a better performance when they lost to the Eagles when he was on the Patriots. I would think that I would say that's Tom Brady's best Super Bowl performance, throwing for 505 yards, 4 touchdowns. It was incredible. And you have Malcolm Butler in that game for the Pats. That would have been Brady's 8th Super Bowl win this past year. And yeah, the defense had a big part of it. The JPP and Shaquille Barrett, 2 of the best pass rushing edges you can get. They just had an unbelievable game. They had a great playoff run in the great last 4 weeks of the season. That defense started to click, started to turn around. I mean, I think it started to turn around ever since the regular season matchup between the Chiefs and the Bucks.
Yeah.
If you remember, the Bucks were 7-5, after that loss, and then boom, Brady just wins 5 straight, and then boom, they're doing something in the playoffs, and boom, Super Bowl victory.
Yeah, it's unreal. It literally is unreal. And to me, Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion, still is the best quarterback in the league. I think he's the best player in the league. And I think this is just an example of him not getting any help in the game. And I've been telling people, I'm like, all right, to be fair about this, if you were to reverse the roles, all right, let's just say even now, Tom Brady, 43 years old, there's no way he would have won on that Chiefs game if you put Mahomes on the Tampa Bay Bucks. Like, there's no way that was going to happen. And anyone for to say that is just, in my opinion, just an idiot because Mahomes literally, dude, he was making plays, diving, falling down, getting destroyed.
Yeah, throwing 30 yards right into the guy's
receivers. Unreal. So that's what I'm saying, man. I just like, I haven't had time to like digest that game because I wanted the Chiefs to win so badly. And it's just like, man, it's like, that would have had, Mahomes at 2 Super Bowls, which still would have had 4 to tie Brady. But now 1-7, like there's no way he ties them. I was just saying that before. I'm like, for him to tie him now, he would have to win. You would have to go to minimum of 6 more Super Bowls, just minimum to even get there. Never mind win, minimum getting there at 6. And at this point, I don't think Patrick Mahomes. I don't even think it's plausible for him to get to 7 Super Bowls.
So, can you see Patrick Mahomes being a top 5 or 10 quarterback in NFL history by the time his career is over?
Oh, absolutely. I think he has the utmost potential doing that. I think he'll be a top 3 quarterback, in my opinion. I think that it'll be him, Manning, and Brady. That's what I personally think, in my opinion. Because Mahomes, like I said, he's still 25 years old. He's already been to 2 Super Bowls. Let's just say if he continues to play, let's say if he plays at minimum like 38 years old, which is a decent age to play against, to play till. You would think he would get to at least 3 more Super Bowls in another 13 years, right? Minimum, right? And
yeah, for sure. Maybe even 4 or 5 for all we know. And I think he has the potential to do that. And I could definitely see him winning multiple Super Bowls, at least 3 in his career.
Right. And, to me, this is another example of that game literally being just like horribly outcoached. And that was like the case, I swear, for like New England, in all those years where Brady won. They would outcoach teams and almost look like the teams were like shocked. Like, The Atlanta game, what a terrible coaching, game that was by Dan Quinn and that horrible staff. Kyle Shanahan, horrible job. And even this game though, Andy Reid like refused to change the game plan at all. Never had an extra blocker. They were getting destroyed. Their quarterback was getting mauled and didn't switch anything. I thought at halftime they were down 21-6. I was
Yeah,
like, all right, there's no way Reid goes into the second half with this team and allows this game to get out of hand. And literally,
yeah,
he didn't switch anything. They didn't even score a touchdown. And I think that's all to blame on the coaching staff. And I just think they were outcoached, outplayed. I just thought that the Tampa Bay Bucks were just way more hungrier.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. They needed Demetrius Harris, I believe. They needed that extra blocker. Like you just said, they were getting smoked every other play.
boom, JPP, edge rush over the left tackle. Boom, Barrett over the right tackle. It's just like, damn. Yes. Who's stopping that, man?
Right, literally.
It's
What are you
like,
gonna do? That was it, and I think that was the biggest difference in that game. That pressure on Mahomes was it. That's all it took, and that was it. They were already too far down at that point.
yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, like you said, I don't think it was Brady's best performance, but for him to have 7 Super Bowls on his resume for a great NFL career like that, it's hard not to say he's not the greatest quarterback of all time because he is. You know?
Oh, 100%. Even me being a hater, I can admit that at this point.
Yeah.
All right, man. But I appreciate you coming on. For the love of the sports, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. My man Andrew, thank you again.
Hey, thank you so much, Ryan. I had a great time talking to you.
Not a problem. Thanks. See you guys.